Most traders don't realize the number one reason why their perfect TradingView back-tested trading strategy falls apart once it goes live. It repaints. Repainting makes a strategy look like a genius in backtest and a complete disaster once you start trading it live. So today I'm breaking down exactly what repainting is, why it happens, how to test for it, and how to avoid getting tricked by fake performance in the future, whether you're building strategies on TradingView or any other platform. Let us start with the part that most traders never actually understand: what repainting actually is. Repainting isn't just an indicator changing past signals. It's a mismatch between live candles and historical candles. And this difference, this mismatch, creates two versions of the same exact strategy. The polished version that you see in backtest that look beautiful, and then the messy version that you actually trade. But why does that happen? Well, first, a live candle and a completed candle are not the same thing. I think a lot of us know that, but we don't recognize that in the backtests. When a candle is forming, none of the values are actually final yet. The high can still rise, the low can still drop, and the close is just non-existent. We don't have a close yet. If your strategy is checking for conditions that are met inside of that candle, it might see something that looks like the exact perfect signal, but that same condition might not be true once the candle closes. Here's an example with the RSI indicator. Let's say that your strategy uses the RSI and we have a huge flash dip after a Fed speaker or FOMC, CPI data, something like that comes out, and we have a huge flash down or up. And your strategy says buy when the RSI is below a certain threshold. And we get the RSI below a certain threshold on a certain time frame in the live markets. But then once the candle closes, we bounce back and the RSI is nowhere near the threshold that you're looking for on the trade. That disappearing act is essentially what repainting is. Because depending upon how you write the strategy, it might make sense to buy in the middle of that candle, even though it hasn't closed yet. But then maybe our backtest is waiting for the close of that candle to initiate a buy signal, and that never would have happened, but the trade would have worked. So that's where things get complicated. Now, why do backtests hide repainting completely? TradingView backtests only use completed candles. They don't simulate the tick-by-tick intrabar movements that have actually happened. So on live, a signal is going to fire, then it's going to disappear once the candle closes, which makes things look chaotic. In a backtest on TradingView, it only sees the final candle, where the signal no longer exists. So it simply removes that from the history, which is why you can get some insanely accurate backtests, because all the false signals that may have happened live just get erased. On top of that, many repainting scripts actually use future data without realizing it. Here's where things get a bit more sneaky. A strategy repaints when it accidentally relies upon information that the candle doesn't have yet, like highs and lows that haven't fully formed, mid-candle indicator updates, moving averages that reference the next bar, and multi-timeframe values that aren't locked yet. When the script recalculates after the candle closes, the indicator basically rewrites history. That gives you just a perfect-looking chart that never actually existed in the moment. Some examples of indicators that are going to almost always repaint unless they're coded correctly: zigzag, fractals, pivot points, many of the super trend variants, and any higher time frame indicator that isn't frozen to the closed candle. These indicators look incredible historically when you go back and say, oh my gosh, this was amazing, because they draw their signals after the market's already given them what they need. So you're seeing the correct signal, it's just being delivered way too late for you to actually trade it in the moment. So the brutal takeaway here is that repainting strategies, they look great because they remove all the signals that weren't perfect. But those signals did actually happen in the moment. You just never get to see them in the backtest. So if a signal depends on anything that happens before a candlestick closes, even for a split second, the backtest is probably lying to you. The only honest version of that strategy is what it does live in the moment. Okay, so let's cover some of the clear warning signs for repainting. Once you know what repainting actually is, it becomes much easier to spot. Sign number one: the strategy nails every trend change. Almost nothing in trading is going to call tops and bottoms perfectly. If your chart looks too good to be true, it probably is. Sign number two: the equity curve is unrealistically smooth. Real strategies, they have chop, they have drawdown. They're not going to look like a perfect even staircase right to the upside. Sign number three: signals move after the fact. You'll see a signal either fire, shift, or just vanish between candles. Depending upon your platform, you might be able to see this in replaying a backtest over the course of history. Sign number four: the script behaves differently live versus backtesting. This is the number one complaint TradingView users have. Many of them just don't realize that repainting is causing this problem. Okay, so how do we test if our strategy is actually repainting? For test number one, we're going to use the TradingView bar replay. Go into replay mode and watch your indicator create signals in real time. If signals fire early, signals disappear, signals move after a candle close, that's repainting. Test number two, turn on recalculate after every tick. If when you turn this setting on, it causes signals to jump around or change dramatically, your script is using intrabar data that's not locked. A non-repainting system would stay nearly identical. Test number three, check for code level red flags. Something that I actually been doing recently, and it's actually been pretty cool. I'll pop a couple things up on the screen that you should be looking for, and if you see any of these things, your strategy is probably rewriting history. But a way to approach this, which is what I've actually been doing recently, is plugging your code into AI. Simply ask AI if this is going to repaint. It's not going to guarantee everything will be caught here, but it can be great insight, and you can get some good information from AI. So let's say you go to TradingView, you happen to stumble across or even create your own strategy that has a 95% win rate. The back test looks flawless. You're thinking, oh my gosh, once I go live, I'm going to make so much money. You decide to automate it, maybe with AlphaInsider, or you start trading it live on your own. 2 weeks later, you're down 25%. You've never seen a drawdown of more than 5-6% on the back test, but now here you are down 25. It turns out the script was repainting the entire time, triggering signals mid-candle that were gone after the close. None of those signals actually show up in the back test, but when you're trading live, you take those signals and they end up hurting you. So what's the solution here? We either need a way to back test without repainting, which is not always easy, or a way to forward test strategies live. Many of us are probably familiar with back testing, but in this case, forward testing, all it really means is let the strategy trade live. Let's track the performance, the entries, the exits with a third party ideally, and then just see how the performance lines up over time. Does it match the back test, or is it profitable to begin with? Because if it doesn't match the back test, it's not the end of the world, but if it's making money, awesome. If it's not making money, well, then we don't want to use it. The site that does this exactly is AlphaInsider.com. Here in AlphaInsider, every trading strategy is forward tested live with real data, timestamp signals, trades that execute in live market conditions, and no ability for a strategy to rewrite its past. What happens is logged, it's tracked, and it is what it is. If a strategy repaints, the live results are going to expose it immediately. This way, there's no need to guess. The data just tells us what's actually happening and what's actually working. Like always, I'll leave a link to AlphaInsider below this video. It's free to sign up, it's free to watch strategies, it's free to subscribe to strategies, and it's even free to create your first automated trading bot with one strategy. Repainting is one of the easiest mistakes to fall for once you start getting into that advanced building trading strategy approach. The issue is that it's one of the most damaging because it feels like you can never get out of this cycle, this never-ending cycle of doing all this research, planning things, making something that works, and then having it just completely suck and drain your account once you trade it live. But once you understand how repainting works, how to spot it, you stop getting fooled by those pretty charts and back tests, and you start trusting what a trading strategy is actually doing in real time. Real strategies are not perfect, but they can be consistent, and consistency is the only thing that scales.